Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to beautiful Bruges. We are here for the world-famous TOM'S Tourney 2025. It's Benji Rees and Hannah Pendlebury bringing you women's division action. We have the return of Lillipuc, who you see there on your screen in the blue, and they are taking on the French Women's Masters national side. Be an interesting game, this, with both sides having, I think, quite different fortunes from their 4 games so far, Hannah.
Yeah, Benji, you could definitely say that. I mean, the French Masters national team will be using this, of course, as a preparation tournament. They'll be playing at the European Masters, Ultimate Championships, and then Worlds next cycle. And yeah, talk us through probably the struggles that Lillipuc maybe have had. They were on our featured stream yesterday.
They were indeed. They went down 15-10 to BFD Cheetahs. Their other games, a 13-9 loss to the Belgian U20s, 15-4 to GB Under-24, and 15-1 to Jinx Midnight. France Women Masters also lost to Jinx Midnight 15-6, but they recorded victories over GB Under-24s, over the Belgium U20s, and over the BFG Cheetahs. But that is a early error that's going to allow Lillipuc a chance to maybe get themselves an early advantage. Player down in the centre of the field for France. I didn't quite see what happened to cause Viva to hit the floor, but she is having to make her way off the field, it looks like.
Well, definitely not an ideal start to a match. I think the player's going to go back. It happened and took a little while to be communicated.
And Lillipuc, of course, allowed to change out a player as well.
But yeah, interesting to see that first error coming out quite so early, but hopefully just some jitters.
Flick sent towards the far side, looking for more continuation downfield, not really seeing the separation they perhaps would like. It was very tight coverage, and there might be a foul called on this. And they were shoulder to shoulder all the way.
Yeah, a little bit of a throw into danger, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not disputing the validity of the foul call, but, you know, with the score count getting high, you do have to release it at some point. But certainly, yes, it was not particularly open necessarily. The foul call is going to be upheld, so it will stay a Lillipuc disc.
Yeah, it's better to have a stall out, though, than have one of your players end up injured.
For sure. Time just a nice enough of a gap to get open underneath. Putting air underneath it towards the back of the end zone. Oh, and it's dropped by Lillipuc. Fournier got herself into the right position and then just couldn't quite secure the catch.
Yeah, that's a shame. It's a nice shot, especially after taking it under pressure. As you say, there was plenty of space, but maybe just not enough of a read of the flight path of it. Maybe dropped a little bit more towards the end.
The formidable lefty Bruges, who you can really expect to power the offense for the French, bearing a lot of the load. Huge flick deep down that far sideline, not quite in the end zone. But I feel like one forward pass will probably be enough to get it done if they can sneak it in. And indeed they can, into the hands of Kathleen Maillard for the score.
Yeah, nice inside shot from Le Villiers. Not always the easiest one to execute, but good spacing, and as you say, Vivas bringing it in.
And yes, based on the previous results on paper, absolutely, I think the French Women's Masters are the favourites for this side, for this game. But you know, the old cliche goes that you don't play the games on paper. You have to go out there. It's the last game of the pool stage, so sometimes, you know, teams, maybe you can take the eye off the ball, or especially because we were told it'd be a bit cooler today, and it certainly started out that way, but now we're in the kind of the middle of the day. It is getting hot again, and that will sap your energy, and it will probably lead to more mental as well as physical fatigue.
Well, you know what they say about the midday sun, and local time is 12:49, wherever, of course, which time zone you're coming in from. I think probably the biggest thing that Lillipuc have to be aware of is shutting down, either whether it's with a flat force or whether it's, you know, backing their players and forcing them underneath. The throwing power that is on this French Masters women's team. We've talked about Bruges already, but you've got Rasta, Ali, Mondillot alongside, as well as many others.
Yeah, that pull is not going to take enough edge to come back in bounds. And Lillipuc have decided that they will take it with Franca Feldman from the brick mark.
Nice position. Traditional horizontal stack coming out. And some clamping for good measure.
On the far sideline with Njai. Of course, there's, you know, maybe some bragging rights, maybe some points to prove here for some of this Lillipuc roster.
Pick call. Tonel getting a little bit caught up, trying to catch up. Yeah, there'll be extra bragging rights. I don't know if any of this Lillipuc roster are old enough, Benji, to have trialled for this Masters team, but maybe, you never know.
I feel like I've seen a couple of them playing for the Puc side that won EMUCC out in Wrocław a few years ago. But it's a tough team to break into, of course, with the French Masters being the reigning European champions, capturing gold in Bologna a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah, and it's great to see so many more nations attending in the women's division. Of course, mixed tends to be the most flush, but that's going to be an out-of-bounds call. And I have to say, Benji, I do agree.
Yeah, I just think maybe lacked a little bit of field presence there, Finn Erb. Have a look at it again on the replay.
Well, maybe, actually.
Yeah, it's tough to tell whether that foot was up or down, but certainly you understand why they've reached the decision that she wasn't in bounds. And Mondillot shooting down the sideline, and Finn Erb does well, reads it, gets in front, and knocks it down to get the block back.
Yeah, with the wind kind of shooting against that disc, maybe didn't quite have the height that Mondillot wanted.
There's the deep shot going. It's going to hang down that far sideline, looking for Njai, who's able to keep her feet, chop her stride to stay in bound. The dump off was a little lofty, but caught in front of Mondillot there by Boileau. And another pick downfield. Feels like some of the spacing's a little bit off here early in the game.
Yeah, well, it's in 2-on-1, sort of in the end zone.
Feldman, that's going to rise, but Njai was wise to it. Was there to clean up in behind, and Lillipuc on the board now themselves. What a piece.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's necessarily wise to the fact that this was going to pop up like that, but that's what you have to be if you're the kind of back a stack player, is always on the balls with your feet, always looking to back people up. Because of course, if you go too soon before it's necessary, maybe you can drag an extra defender in there. They can make an aggressive play because they don't have to catch it, they just have to prevent the offense from doing so. But that's a really good way to back up one's teammate, because it's been the same story as yesterday, Benji. It's been a very warm day, a little bit cooler, but we are seeing in this midsection and towards the end of the day a lot more wind than we saw in the morning, and being trapped on three sides by foliage here on pitch 5, it gets a little bit interesting with the wind conditions.
Yeah, it does create the tunnel effect, and especially if you get too much loft on it, then all of a sudden a gust that you were not expecting can really take it and just push it away.
But Lillipuc perhaps with a slight advantage in terms of if the discs do go a little bit astray, maybe having a little bit of a bigger roster ever so slightly.
Yeah, and the fact that they have played on this pitch already this week, so maybe slightly wiser to the conditions. The 4 downfield set up quite deep for France, clearing up plenty of space for the isolation. Napula dishes forward to Bruges. Bruges wants to shoot again, this time lining it downfield for Lemaitre, and it's right in stride for the nice, clean, quick score for the French Women's Masters.
That is very smart positioning in terms of the set that you've got. Obviously, Hostak, as you said, a little bit further away. You can kind of tell that the French Masters team trust each other to be able to execute those, because then it means that if you know, because as we said, there's a lot of power throws on this team, so they can really shoot deep. So kind of allowing those underneath, but setting the stack a little bit deeper means once you get in flow, and Bruges hitting this near sideline is something you're probably going to see when the French women's team are shooting this direction by virtue of that lefty backhand, which you just saw. I mean, it got a little bit involved with the wind, but the amount of spin that goes on that, it's just a thing of beauty.
Two, 1, France leading Lillipuc. Just on serve so far through the first 3 points of this game. I wonder what's being written down on that notepad. Can you get a closer look? No?
Nah.
Interesting.
How's your coaching French, Benji?
Pas mal.
Of course, the France Women's Masters team have 2 coaches with them, Théo Baudin and Yuen Pierre.
Going to be Kindo to bring in from the brick mark. France haven't quite got that pulling nailed early on in this game. Low. The knee-padded Merio has to go to ground to secure, but does. Dishes back to Feldman. Feldman now trying to find a follow-up option. Things looking very static downfield, so they have to work it through the handler core. Thought the give back could have gone, but instead the spacing's a little bit off, and that's well picked in there by Tonnerre. Mondio, Rasta as she's always known, finds Samako on this near side. Motions players out to take the swing, and then the continuation towards the far sideline there has been a pick in the centre of the field. Wonder if the disc is going to stay here though with Jennifer Papin.
Looks like it, Benji. I like this kind of positioning from the French Masters team, trying to go for like a traditional vertical stack. Who plays that anymore?
Canizo squeezing it down the line, the layout comes and the layout secures it as well. There's the game's first break, and it's come into the hands of Papin. That's 3-1 to France.
Nice to see a little bit of swaz on it. We talk about, sometimes a little bit too much about perhaps how Masters players are a little bit wise to when they make their bids. But it's not about necessarily just saying they're old and they can't handle the Bosch, because, I mean, if you see some of the social media presence of this French Women's Masters team, they put in a heck of a lot of work and they are real, true athletes. But I think knowing when it is the right moment to do it, maybe that comes a little bit more Asian experience in comparison to youth teams who maybe kind of fling themselves at things. And that's why you get some of those amazing plays out of the youth divisions. But at the moment, things hanging tough. Of course, the first break going in the way of the French Women's Masters team. Took only 5 passes to do it, whereas I think Lillipuc, they ground out that first offensive hold.
And the fact as well is that not only is that a break for France, but there's also into the wind, which feels like it counts a little bit extra, providing, of course, you can cash in the subsequent downwind, which they'll try to do now.
But how many games, Benji, have we seen it where teams suddenly, for a channel, if not all the game, find it really hard to score the downwind because it's about adjusting those throws?
Xiao Xi, who I was very impressed by with her performance for Lillipuc yesterday in that loss to BFD Cheetahs. Into a congested area. And, well, it was an awkward catch, but superbly stuck by Rambert, another who caught the eye yesterday. And then Rambert slices that through. Girard has got a live arm. There's a foul called, and players have stopped, even though I think play continued. Yeah, because you can tell that's not how she quite wanted it to come out, but it was completed nonetheless. Visionary, well, I would say.
I mean, yeah, controversial, but I mean, heck, what a redemption. So it's going to be retracted, unsurprisingly. The continuing 3 passes will stand.
I think they are just going to take it back into the middle.
Okay, fair enough. I'll hit the undo button.
Thanks for your stat tracking today, Hannah. Appreciated.
No worries, pal. But either way, Bulliot with an amazing set of eyes.
Good recognition. Shows you've always got to have your head up and be alert. That one just tries a little bit of a toss, and it sinks before Mario can get underneath it. Bruges now. Looks like the French women, rather than going strict O&D lines, they maybe have kind of 2 sets, each going one way. That one downwind and downline from Davesi.
I can confirm, Benji, I can confirm that the French women's masters team are running 2 lines and kind of, you know, using the opportunity to connect those 2. They will be running power lines occasionally when the games call for it, power O lines, power D lines, but at the moment it's a split in half on an even basis for their talent.
Girard is more than happy to put air underneath it, and that time the edge just tails it out of the far sideline in front of the Tom's Tourney banner on the far side.
The old school hive sort of looking one. I'm sure our excellent producer Felix, currently running Cam 2, will be a big fan of that.
And I was curious to see whether the website does still work, and it does if you go to Frisbee.be. That is the website for Frisbees. So someone was very wise to pick up that domain name nice and early.
It's the old guard, man. They knew what they were about.
That one, a little bit hot to handle. It's low, got her hands underneath it, but it zings its way through.
Yeah, just too much spice. It'd be nice to see the French Women's Masters clean it up a little bit, because I think a lot of its decisions are correct. It's just the throws aren't quite on the money.
Mario tries the little pop to Fellman, and the disc just rapidly picks up in rotation and spins out of her hands. Bruges, as she goes to pick up, immediately calls for a bit more organisation in the end zone. There's a player open if they can just sit it there. And that time, Lemaitre just did not get anywhere near enough on it. Just tried to loft it in there, and actually it just needed a bit more juice.
See, it's what I told you, Benji. It's not easy to score downwind, as it seems. It's also quite an unpredictable breeze. It's kind of gusting up and then settling and then gusting up. So there's a possibility that Lemaitre got a little bit unstuck there just by virtue of that extra little bit of juice on it. But a nice idea, hitting that really wide open break side. Yeah,
I mean, there was plenty of space. The player had separation, just couldn't execute the throw as desired. This one is lofty. It might invite the defender, and was a good late adjustment there from Rambert, even if it didn't connect.
Yeah, that original lead pass to Broglio was absolutely beautiful, but just didn't quite have the right wrist snap on it. It's really difficult as a lefty to execute that high release flick into the wind, and it did just tail off because of the release.
That one low, scooped by Bruges. Now dished off, France trying to get a bit of flow downfield. Things temporarily stymied, but Lemaitre finds herself some space in the centre. Working it to the near side with Nadeyek, and then the continuation back into the hands of Lemaitre for her second goal this contest, and that is the downwind cashed in 4-1 France.
Took some effort to do it though, 2 attempts, both with 7 passes for the completion. But I think Lillipuc just really struggling a little bit, trying to be aggressive, going against the breeze, which kind of worked for that initial bit on the second possession, but just maybe a little bit too hasty. We saw in the previous Women's Division game here on our live stream some very effective works by the Sharks Barcelona team of really using the lateral space so effectively. I think maybe if Lillipuc, they have some really beautiful channels of throwing, I'd like to see them swing a little bit more, Benji.
We'll see how both sides are able to adjust throughout the contest. One of the things about Tom's is that the games are shorter. They're only an hour plus cap, and that means that often, you know, you don't have as much time to problem solve on the fly. You know, you go down a few points. When the games are shorter, that margin feels so much larger.
Much better pull than the starting the game, Benji.
Yeah, able to keep this one in bounds and beyond the brick mark. Puck's offense going to work. Petit Poletti. So the disc now goes back into the backfield to Jennifer Salinas. Petit Poletti through the centre. This is going to float. Can someone back this up? It wasn't quite hanging enough for Emmeline Verstraeten.
Yeah, you can see the frustration in Petit after trying to lash that one. That previous pickup, though, really excellent stuff from Soraya Snerin. Well, Neurin, I guess.
Disc checked in, back underway. Wide open underneath there. Guillet. Finding Canizo, who's looking for a downfield option. Finds the little inside seam to Badar. And now they're leading each other really nicely here on this sideline. Tonnerre. Again, just a little slash into the middle. And Samarco uses the edge to take it around the defender and into the end zone for the score. France now are beginning to kick on a little bit.
Oh, wow, Benji. Well, I have to say that throw from Alice Samarco, of course, we're used to seeing her execute in fine fashion, but just the way that it had the curvature to just sneak around the defender and meet the target, that's class. Tonnerre, of course, another of the additional lefties on this Women's Masters squad.
It does help to have, you know, throwers from both sides so you can really change those angles of attack, and just that D-line possession was a clinic in lots of little, nothing too exaggerated, but good lead passes, throwing receivers open into space. And then there you saw the finishing shot with that rolling, curving backhand around. And
a great read from Leila Bages-Limoges, but as well, because actually, you know, it was kind of more of a tumble than a full stretch layout, but actually just to commit the whole body behind it, make sure it's actually falling into the bread basket, giving us every opportunity to make that catch, because there was a little bit of difficulty to it. But what a lead at the moment, the French Masters women's team with 5, and Lillipuc still yet to put a second on the board.
Yeah, I think it took them a little bit to find their feet in the game, the French Women's Masters, but they have kicked on from there. And Lillipuc are going to have to snap into shape pretty quickly to prevent the game running away from them against a really top quality opponent. This is a nice possession though. Kindo looking inside, finds Zol. Now Merio wanting to gun this one and really fires the flick deep to Njai into the end zone for the score. Njai is such a field stretcher for this Lillipuc side.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what the adjustment was in terms of personnel there, Benji, but whatever it was, it worked. I love Justine Merio's fake before lashing that one deep. We'll get a look at it in just a moment, but again, taking on slightly less lengthy options as well. See that big turnaround, sort of moves the mark. Maybe not the most believable in terms of the launch because the shape of it, but it did be aggressive. I like that, and then the space that was found, very nice indeed.
When you've got a player like Njai, who's quite a natural finisher, I think it's very tempting to just, for that player to maybe hang around a little bit towards the end zone too much, but Njai doesn't. She gets involved. You know, she's happy to collect things and dish them off, and no one needs that close-up, Felix. Do a real job.
It's because he knows that we really, 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 really like being on camera, Benji.
Oh, famously, that's why I commentate, because I want to be on camera, definitely.
Although I have to say, the sparkling apple sap with ginger, this Rennet stuff that they're serving from the Tom's Tourney bar, it's pretty nice.
Have you heard about this thing called beer that I hear is very popular here?
I mean, the Zods are also nice. I was on the sports Zod.
You were on the sports Zod last night, actually. I might have one later.
I mean, someone has to drive us all home.
France already on the verge of the red zone here. The dumpster a slightly awkward angle, and the stall count's rising now. So they're just going to put that throw out to space for Mondiaux. Very clever option. Bages-Limoges. Looking at options downfield. Squares up, swings to Mondiaux, who continues on that break side. Got the cut that she wanted from Papin. Now they're throwing and going around the back. Mondio again stretching and changing the angles of attack and just pinpoint tiptoe in the front corner of the end zone there. A second goal in as many offensive possessions for Leila Bagé-Limoges.
Yeah, it's an interesting one there, Benji, because quite frequently it seems when Lillipuc are on defence, they are clamping and double covering certain parts of the pitch, which means that people are completely unguarded for sections of the possession. I mean, it started first came to my mind when it was Guillet that was completely unmarked, and this time obviously ending up in an ever so slightly awkward position just by virtue of this being a little bit more spicy. But Bagé-Limoges with no one anywhere near, and it's not like Lillipuc have got a small roster. Some of the teams here at Tom's Tourney have brought a surprisingly low number of athletes, considering the indulgence in the Zots later on this evening. But yeah, it surprises me not to see a little bit more communication. I wonder if there's a bit too much time talking about strategy between points and maybe not enough time sidelining and communicating on defense.
Yeah, you got to make sure that even when you're not on the field, you are getting involved, you know, making your presence felt on the sideline. You know, you can be that extra oversight that perhaps you get a different angle on the game that the players on the field can't necessarily see in the heat of the moment.
Nice deep pull.
Yeah, utilising the win of that opponent to try and pin Lillipuc back near their own end zone. The field looking very compressed. I think without a bit of 20-yard vertical range, but nice little give-go there, bouncing off Finnerb with Kindo. Foul called and accepted. By the way, an update, because we now have the open pre-quarters set, so it will be Wall City against another French side is no good in the open pre-quarter coming up next. But now, back to the matter at hand.
Yeah, it's a good time to be a francophone Frisbee fan.
Kindo towards the near sideline to Xiaoxi. Luna Xiaoxi calling for something on the open side. Gets it as well. Boileau. Can she find an option? Stalkout rising, tries to jam it in there, and enough pressure that Finnerb couldn't stick it.
Yeah. Boileau being put in quite a few difficult positions, sometimes by virtue of her team. It seems like Lillipuc are really working so hard to grind towards the open side. There are opportunities, though, when I think they're really covered on that side, where if they can swing it, move it more laterally, they'll be able to bounce open it for those insides a little bit easier.
A little bit of a cluster in the centre. Bru unveils herself underneath, suggests the backhand, and then just smuggles it away again. And now she's racing through the centre.
Well, there's nice coverage downfield, a switch off.
And then she finds space on the break side, putting a little bit of air underneath it, and judged to perfection for Pauline Lemaitre. 7-2.
Well, this is a pretty rapid work. We haven't had the jingle for half-time, because of course these 60-minute game slots, that happens at 30 minutes into the game, but we're already on 1 point away from half for France Women's Masters. I think it really just shows in the pass tallies. They are being pretty ruthlessly efficient, working their way down the field.
Some of you may remember in Tom's Tourney past where games were even shorter. They were 50 minutes in 1 hour slots, and you didn't even get a half time, and the cap rules were different as well. So if you weren't within a close enough score within the when the cap went on, you finished the point and that was it. And often it led to quite unsatisfying conclusions. But I think because this is now included as an EUCS event, you have to conform to certain rules, which includes, you know, a proper end of game cap and a proper half cap as well.
It's like that question, what have the Romans ever done for us? What have the UF ever done for us? Well, it gave us a Tom's Tourney with a slightly less brutal finish.
I mean, my only previous Tom's Tourney experience I loved. I'm not going to say I wouldn't change it for a world, because there were definitely things about it that I would have changed from my end.
You mean you didn't absolutely love doing being the only person commentating an entire tournament on your own?
What, doing 19 games in 2 days? No, it wasn't brilliant.
Yeah.
Getting the overnight coach there and back, also probably not the best idea.
There's reps and then there's reps, you know?
Well, exactly. There's nothing like being forged in the fires But it is much nicer to have a little bit more of a break between games. They're a short field turnover, and Mondiaux only ever had one thing in mind, and it was shooting for the score. Badard collects, and that's the 8-2 half-time lead for France Masters.
Well, not surprised. They have really cruised their way through this first half, have the French Masters women's team. Of course, just so sad to see that narrowly escape the grasp. Lillipuc are going to have to put their thinking caps on during this half-time to see if they can find a way through. They have, as I said, when they stay connected, been really, really attractive, but we'll see what they come out with in the second half, Benji.
Yeah, don't go anywhere. We'll be back with the second half shortly. Tom's Tourney 2025.
We live in a world where everything can be referenced online. Imagine if the greatest moments in our sport were never filmed. Eurodisc continues to do what it takes to make free-to-watch live streams a reality. Let's leave nothing to the imagination. We'll consume the action live, and we'll support those that help to make it happen. If it wasn't streamed, it didn't happen. Eurodisc.
What a grab! Oh my God! Somehow they do it!
Huge thank you to all our supporters and partners for helping to make free live streams happen. We are delighted to be at Tom's Tourney. Already it's been quite a busy early season. I think this is 4 weeks in a row. We had Dubai Invite, and then we had Paganello, Copatanga. And we've got a double this weekend because we're also at Vienna Spring Break as well. So much Ultimate for you to watch live and free on ULTI.TV.
And not even just our European affairs. We obviously have our crew down under our sister station, as it were.
Yeah,
and,
both divisions of AUC, the Australian Ultimate Championships. There was coverage of the New Zealand season as well. And if that is something you think that is worth supporting, here comes the call to action, folks. Like, subscribe, make sure you get notifications activated, all of that good stuff. And as well, you can check out our Patreon, patreon.com/ULTI.TV. And for the first time now, you can become a YouTube channel member to get access to exclusive bonus streams. There we had a few of those at AUC, and we'll have even more for you at London Invite that you are surely not going to want to miss.
Yeah, throw money, throw money.
That one pings off the chest of Meriot. Now Poulalio on the sideline, trying to get a bit more lateral separation to work with. Zings that through the bracketed coverage and then continues to the end zone. France starting the first half in much the same way they ended, starting the second half in much the same way they ended the first. Hannah.
Yeah, it just seems like they're kind of now cruising through the gears, and you can feel the jitters coming off of Lillipuc. Of course, such an unfortunate moment when the sort of disc bounces off one's chest. You think you've got possession, and it sort of knocks off your body and then just pings immediately in the opposite direction. But this French Women's Masters team are starting to really click and hum. A couple of slightly dicey throws in terms of, maybe putting them in a risky position if those defenders manage to kind of visualize and capitalize and sort of swipe around. But at the moment, I think they know they've got Lillipuc on the back foot.
Yeah, 9-2. The time cap comes on at 1 hour. Score cap is 15. And at the moment, France sitting pretty on both fronts. See there again, one of the French coaches. And it's always going to be tough when you're coming up against a full-fledged national side as a club team, especially if you're a club team from that very country. Hurling tries to squeeze this down the sideline, and Samarco was able to get a beat and accelerate towards it.
Yeah, that looked so open until Samarco just closed the trap, but a missed huge throw and a turnover again.
Jennifer Salinas now has Verstraeten. Trying to square up, gets the offload into the centre. Fournier. Player looked open downfield, defender Leborgne closes quickly enough, and then a little pop over, and a big bump on the end of that one.
Yeah, immediate apology coming from Jennifer Papin. Accepted foul. You can see she was just tracking the disc a little bit too hard, and the complete stop of Aparicio caused contact.
Nice downfield switch passed off between two long-time Yaka teammates, Mondio and Leborgne, and it's forcing Lillipuc into the backfield. Now the deep shot comes, trying to hit the size mismatch, and they work it as well. Clever ultimate there, just putting it up and backing your bigger receiver to go and get it, and that's exactly what Anne-Sophie Erling does.
I mean, that was just a very shapely throw, wasn't it, Benji? Sailing over quite a lot of heads. And you can really feel the pressure is on. Aparicio just about squeaks that one through. And Serenas just thinks, you know what? Just going to take the shot. That little sliver of shoulder work. Mondio losing her feet.
Yeah, good work by Erling. Just seal off Mondio there. You know, using her body to get herself firmly in front and make it so difficult for Mondio to try and come round.
And such a nice starting position from the cut as well for Anne-Sophie, because starting from much further laterally across the field, you give yourself much a bigger window. Of course, you know, there was that rundown from Mondio, but just a really attractive option. I can see why Serenas took it.
Lillipuc on the board then in the second half. 9-3 the scoreline. Watching here on ULTI.TV, our coverage of TOM'S Tourney 2025. Easy for me to say.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a tongue twister, isn't it?
And I've not even got on the Zot yet.
What o'clock is Zot o'clock?
Find out later. France, Bruges tries to squeeze her way free in the handler space, and that time the clap of doom you heard. Her hands closed and the disc was not there. The deep shot trying to take advantage, but Bruges reads it and swats it to the floor in revenge.
That is the second time we've had a error from a player, then at the immediate block on the next pass. Last time it was Lillipuc.
Bruges just saying, you know what, I maybe have to put a little bit of weight on this one now. Good to see Viva back on the field. As France, as that second possession was smooth, there was a lot more rhythm to their play. The timing of the cuts downfield was smooth and sleek, and you got that synergy, so they were never getting in high stall counts. 10-3 now the score.
Yeah, that was absolutely beautiful flowing offense, almost like a cascading waterfall.
Oh yes, it's a really good metaphor. I like that.
Yeah, so sort of rock to rock to rock. There was a moment where I thought there was going to be a little bit of a spillage, where, in fact, actually the player you just see throwing there, just kind of clearing through and slightly close to the thrower. Almost looks a tiny bit hexy in some respects.
Honestly, I do love watching an offense in flow. There is something to be said for quite, you know, the old school North American style of you set up really obvious isolations and you have, you know, big yard gainers and then you reset, get back into position, another huge yardage gainer. But I must say, I like it when players are not really holding the disc. They're getting it, going, constantly keeping it on the move, changing those angles.
Well, it's almost like the Latin American style, is it not? That kind of, you know, that really started to
100%.
to mess with people and obviously get a high level of success. I think really one of the big things is creativity and variability. I know we were talking earlier in the tournament, Benji, about teaching youth athletes to solve problems.
Oh yes, this has been one of my talking points, I think, this weekend. I've had this conversation with the people a few times. I think because of the strength of some of the under-24 sides and under-20 sides we've seen this weekend. Here's the deep shot coming from Lillipuc as well, covered, and Nanu Leborgne swipes it away.
Yeah, not an athlete you want to test.
No, not quite. This one is into contested coverage, and Kindo is able to get a beat on Alice Samarco that time. Samarco frustrated. Finn Herb sticks a tough grab and then into the end zone is able to find the continuation pass for the score. Jinzhou makes it 10-4.
Well, Pat So is sat beneath our commentary booth, but I still hear the echo in my mind of 10-4 there, little buddy.
Yeah, that is indeed the old walkie-talkie.
Well, there's not a lot of walking, running, and the disc is definitely telling us a story there.
Yeah, they're letting their play do the talking at the moment, the French women's masters side. But Lillipuc, have to say, after that opening break to start the second half, you know, they've kind of solidified their presence in this game a little bit, Hannah.
Well, also from the coaching side, when we know that the French Women's Masters are using Tom's Tourney as a development. Of course, you've got the social, the bonding aspect, that, you know, as we've talked about, the zots, the sports zots, the waffles, all of the things that get put on here. I mean, the catering, has to be said, at Bruges is exceptionally tight.
Well, I mean, not only is the food good, but it's also very well organised, which is something that often gets underappreciated, I think.
But I think in terms of the coaching set, this is now where you start to run through some different looks, try and experiment with your defense, certainly, and a little bit of the offense. Let's see what this shape will look like.
Bruges picks up the pull. Player screaming for it underneath. Oh, I think she saw that short, and indeed she has. Claire Petit-Paletti had the read and got the inside line and tried to squeeze it through into the end zone. Mariana Vivas saw through the ploy.
Yeah, a squandered opportunity for a much-needed break. It would have been their first of the game here, Benji. I like the attack. I like trying to go quite quick, but you just got to be wise to where everybody is.
Dished off to Bruges. And the French downfield, I think. Maybe just struggling a little bit with some of the switching. There's a deep shot. Good coverage, but not good enough to beat Poulalieu. Now she's taking off into the end zone, the dish, and the strike for the score, and 11-4.
Oh, Benji. Oh, Benji.
Hello.
There were, a big pair of swiping hands that very, very nearly gave us probably one of the most unexpected plays of the day. And it is that thing of, there are moments where the French Women's Masters are taking shots that they're not necessarily obvious, they are slightly predictable, and the Lillipuc players are just a hair's breadth away from getting blocks here. There you go, that arm that swipes through.
Yeah, coming through the centre of the field and the traffic there. I think you need to have the presence to just say, actually, I can maybe back off a little bit here because I'm drawing a defender through that lane.
And that is something that is making me a little bit wary for this French Women's Masters team. It is that slight softer awareness of running through that channel. It's the second time we've noticed it. And I think, again, in a team that maybe are meeting those vibes, that maybe have slightly better reads on the play and then where the disc is, there might be some more spillage.
I did see that Diola Njai was doing some temporary hat stacking on the far sideline, but she's found a teammate to foist one of them off onto, which is less fun. Honestly, I'm a big fan of a hat stack on a sideline. I don't think teams do it enough. Fired into the centre there for Finn Erb. He's made some tough catches today. Shaoxi, there's a pick in the centre. Camille Rambert, suspiciously free. He's going to allow Marion Tonnerre to catch up. And checked in. Zo. Now Kindo. Splits the double coverage. Samarco has to hustle back into position. Rambert finds the inside channel and plows it beautifully. Shaoxi dissing it off to Fellman. Puck offense has been much sharper in the second half. Now that time I did not think that was open, and on a high stall I wonder if she just thought, I've just got to get it out now. But it was behind Rambert. And to be fair, that's almost where it had to go because the defender was on the outside but did not have the connection, and that's the turn.
Yeah, Lillipuc, unfortunately, in that point at times, were just really holding on to the disc for quite a long time rather than just initiating resets.
Guillet trying to lead the offense from the back now. Here's Le Bon. Beautiful pivot and rakes it out of the pitch and back in down the sideline to Guillet. That's a beautiful throw. I love that.
I mean, you would never throw it if there was a defender anywhere near.
But love that she was not afraid to take it on at all. Kindo tries to flash in and block and is able to stop the next pass, but not that one. Good work, realising Lillipuc Limoges that she was wide open, and she comes towards the front of the end zone for the 12-4 score.
Yeah, Benji, again, we see some intelligence from Lillipuc's defence trying to flash off, switch, kind of ending up double covering some options though, but it's that second step, it's that ability to then refocus, find who the player is that's completely poached off at that point, identify them and find out who should be marking them. But there are, I think, just too many times where the French Masters women's players are just without a mark. It makes their life very easy, it relieves any pressure from them, and then they just identify those options, find the hole and punch it in. So 12-4. I think it would be very controversial to say we think Lillipuc can pull this back. Wouldn't hate to see it,
It
though.
would be a bold claim. I've seen some big comebacks from French sides actually at TOM'S Tourney, even in the old shortened game format. But this does feel like
a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, I would say it's a mountain to climb. It's not just any, and it's not just any mountain. This is like K2. You won't find many more difficult mountains to get over.
Although I have to say, I'm absolutely digging the fact that Lillipuc are digging deep and still playing with such attack and energy, despite the scoreline.
Thought she might take on the break to Verstraeten instead. Just a little dish underneath. That's Jetsa Sorinas. The inside channel is behind, committed to the layout to try and snag it, but there was just too much traffic in the way, and Maillard makes sure that it goes to ground.
I think that's probably one of the challenges for Lillipuc, is their throws are just not on the money today.
Nice acrobatics there to secure the catch, which was offline. Dish short to Viva. Now just going to take the little dish off and thinking about continuing the swing around the back, but Le VAA decides against it. Bruges bounces back towards the open side. Was so decorated, Justine Bruges, part of that gold medal winning French side at EUC a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it really has been strength to strength since that World Games qualification. Oh, such a casual release.
And it just seemed so nonchalant and easy in the end. Mariana Vivas makes the catch for the score, and France are within 2 of sealing this game.
And in relatively short fashion as well, of course, our maximum points cap of 15, 60-minute game slot. I think, to be fair, I can appreciate why at this stage of the game you would, as the French Master women, want to try and now be the most efficient as possible. Of course, a little bit of experimentation still, but if you can get out of this midday sun, get yourself a nice rest, some refreshment, find some shade, that's a very tempting prospect. I wonder, though, if that feeling might end up with some hasty decision-making, Benji?
Well, it's interesting because there's been a little bit of a pattern. The game started with some trading, and then France went on a 3-break run. We traded again, and then France had a 3-break run, and then we've done some more trading, and France have now got 2 breaks on the spin. If you look at how the game's gone, I not necessarily sure that I'd bet against them getting a 3rd. Especially going in this downwind direction, although the wind is not as strong as it has been.
Yeah, big shout out to Tom Stiles, the creator of Commentary Source. It really visualises it on our screen of that kind of wave pattern. But let's see how it goes.
Also, I would like to give Lillipuc thanks for being an unknowing guinea pig for roster boss earlier in the weekend, which came in very handy.
Also wearing the right team kit with very visible numbers.
That one floated and just beyond the outstretched finger of Badar into Kindo's grasp. Merio not necessarily seeing the space underneath and tried to sneak it to Rambert, but it hits the turf.
Yeah, I love that as an idea, but just not a little bit unexpected, perhaps a little bit too far out in front of Rambert.
This one was behind, and it fluttered for a little bit, but there was no one there to smuggle it back. Rambert will pick up for Lillipuc.
Yeah, slightly awkward angle there, not quite the right readable, legible pattern.
Sneaking down the sideline. Merio just about in bounds. Can she find a way to get past the sideline? Trout instead looking for the option down the line. There was not much of a window in there. Would have been required some throw to sneak it in, especially with 2 defenders lurking.
Yeah, slight throw into danger. I think that's just got to be hats off to the defence from the French Women's Masters team. Just smother cover. So this to make it that 3rd break again in a row.
Immediately getting it into the centre and then continuing towards the far sideline. Baget Limoges. Conner. There's a player open, wide open on that far side. Doesn't necessarily want to take the break on and find it, and then pass the bidding Finn Erb. Back to her feet. Now they're taking the swing. Guillet. Inside. Back in her hands. Thinking about the shot down the sideline, instead going more centrally to Canizo. Mondial. France now beginning to transition into a red zone set. Taking that space, a few yards away from pay dirt. Swinging to Mondial, is going to take the continuation. Such good fundamentals. We get that swing, let's hit the break side. This time covering towards the open side. That's going to leave Mondial a little bit of space. Can she find an option in the end zone? Purposeful fake. Try and motion someone out of space, and he's going to take the dish off here. Back to Papin, who floats it, but it's well stuck high by Lisa Canizo, and that is the 3rd break on the bounce.
Well, I have to say, a lot of that point was built off the back of Lillipuc, Limoges, by virtue of when things slowed down, it just seemed to be that number 25 shirt that just kept appearing from downfield, appearing out of the stack, and just sort of galloping free of her matchup. Definitely someone who's playing that real cog role, but also a nice little bit of extra finesse on that rip down by Lisa Canizo on the goal as well. Just making sure, taking it aggressively, she can feel the presence of the Lillipuc defenders by her, and of course credit to Lillipuc for actually making the French Masters team unlock that gate slowly. It wasn't a really quick punch it in when they got to the goal line. They had to work their way around, and that was just by virtue of how intelligent the defense was. I think they're starting, unfortunately, quite late in the game to really figure out how to stay in contention, and just the cool, calm, control way that the French Masters women's team worked that through. Just very, very difficult to stop, especially when they got to the break side. In my heart, though, Benji, I was thinking, why not a hammer? Why not lead someone to that side?
I mean, look, I would have done it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was the right thing to do.
Oh, no.
Although I've never been wrong, so I guess by definition it would.
Well, we've seen plenty of hammers work out on the live stream. That one, though, a little bit of a bridge too far.
Aparicio tried to chase down, but it was always too far in front. Bru will pick up, and she will take her time, because she does generally favour, I think, the slower, more methodical start before picking up the pace once the disc has been checked in. Not seeing anything downfield, she'll take the reset. Inside from Angaye Leviaye. Back in her hands, still threatening the break option. Oh, the throw came late. And if you don't hit the inside early, that window closes so quickly. She fakes the backhand around, and as soon as she didn't deliver it, I think that meant the window for the inside had gone. Leaning towards this near side, this is going to be awkward, and it's a touch too much there for Clea Petit-Poletti.
Yeah, Petit-Poletti has been putting in quite the shift. I think maybe earlier in the game there goes the full stretch layout. You can see the arm there, the eyes on the prize, but just thought she could clutch it without having to go full stretch.
Yeah, it's that throw that often gets people in trouble, the quote-unquote barbecue backhand, the backhand to the forehand side. Although I might just be calling it that because I'm looking forward to tonight's meal, which is, of course, the famous Bruges barbecue. Outside the end zone now, can France force the victory? Having to go backwards there. Bru on the inside. Cutters spread out in the red zone, and she says, no, get back in position. I'm not having this. Just outside, Leviaye slashing through, first no, and then again fakes the backhand, but she wasn't really that interested. Leviaye trying to run through it. Bruges pumps, fakes, and then pops into the centre. Oh my word, all sorts of bodies underneath it. And somehow it ends in the hands of Lillipuc for the score and the victory.
Wow, that was quite an interesting way to finish the game. They're going to have a little bit more discussion, but I tell you what, I mean, not dressed all in black, but ninja style, that final flare catch from Angaye Levillayer. Wow. I mean, after being so disciplined and so conservative and so what one might call kind of boring, then this just casual dish into danger from Justine Bruges. I mean, I just wanted to say about the kind of the slow start that she likes, so just to put it in there. The one thing that needs is the stack to move a little bit earlier. If you're going to have a slow start from a handler, but that count, that timing, because the movement beforehand, that makes the best of that situation. But hats off to the French Women's Masters programme. That was quite the dominant result. Yeah, commiserations to Lillipuc, though, because I think they put in a really good shift, Benji.
Yeah, they had really good passages of play, but it's kind of getting that on a more consistent basis, I think, the next step for them. For France Masters, that seals the second spot in the pool, so they will be in the quarterfinals later today, because Tom's Tourney is now going into bracket play, and our first game is a pre-quarter in Open Division 1. We have ULTI from Berlin up against Is No Good from Noisy-le-Sec.
Yeah, I can hear the thumping techno Berlin vibe already. They're here for the vibes and the reps. We heard yesterday they were on our live stream, but that's going to be a good one, I think, Benj.
I'm very much looking forward to it. That is in about 20 minutes time, so enough time to get some refreshments, get some water on, stretch off, and we'll see you here in 20 minutes time for open pre-quarter action. For Hannah Pendlebury alongside me and our wonderful ULTI.TV crew, Benji Reese, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you on the other side.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, ultimate.
ULTI.TV.
There's so much. Don't let me down, down, down. Don't let me down, down, down. I wanna be up, 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 so high. 'Cause I've been down.